and welcome to We Should Probably Talk, a psychology podcast.
Designed specifically for the young adult experience because, let's be honest, Ian, being an emerging adult is usually just a fancy term for feeling overwhelmed.
Exactly. I'm Ian, Professor Michelle's teaching assistant, and the person currently navigating that overwhelmed feeling in real time.
And I'm Professor Michele. We're looking at your stories. We're bridging the gap between what you read in a textbook and what actually happens when you live your life.
Every week, we're going to dig into the research behind our daily lives, from why your social battery is at 0% to the mental tools you actually need to survive.
Psychology, your stories, and real life.
We should probably talk about it. Let's dive in. So, we got a message from Dylan. I'm writing to you because I feel like I'm stuck in a circle I can't break. I'm a freshman this year, and while I was excited to finally have the freedom of living away from home for the first time, it turned out to be a lot more difficult than I expected. Lately, it feels like I'm constantly at war with myself. Every single choice I make, no matter how small, comes with a massive side of guilt. If I stay up late or sleep in, I feel like I'm failing. When I decide what to eat, I'm judging myself. Even when I'm out with friends, there's this voice in the back of my head telling me I should be doing something else. It's especially bad when it comes to the freedom of college. Some days I'll skip a class to stay in my dorm and play video games, and while I'm playing, I can't enjoy it because the guilt is so distracting. It's like I'm my own toughest critic, and I don't know how to just exist in this new environment without feeling like I'm doing everything wrong. How do I handle that internal tug of war? Is this just a normal part of moving out? Or am I just missing some secret to balancing the freedom without the constant self-judgment?
Oh, that's a lot, but also very common. It sounds like Dylan is caught in a battle called cognitive dissonance. It's that unpleasant mental discomfort you feel when what you are doing doesn't match your attitudes and beliefs.
So it's like you're gaslighting your own user agreement every time you make a choice.
Exactly. Young adulthood is a messy transition where your family's instilled values clash with your new independence. If you've been raised to be a straight A student but find yourself sleeping until noon and missing classes, that gap between your ingrained attitude and your actual behavior is where the guilt lives.
Before we fix Dylan's guilt, we should probably define what an attitude actually is in psych speak. It's not just having an attitude with your boss, right?
Right. An attitude is a mix of belief and emotion that prepares you to respond to the world like when you have to make a decision. Think of it as the ABCs of attitudes. The A, or the affective component, is how you feel. You might feel dread when the 7 a.m. alarm goes off, or you might feel excited to start a new daily adventure. The B, or behavioral component, is what you do. Like if you hit snooze and stay under the duvet, or you get out of bed and start your day. The C, or cognitive component, is what you believe or think. You either think, I don't need to go to class because it's a waste of time, or you think, I want to take advantage of my academic opportunities.
Okay, so we use these ABCs to sort the world into good or bad, or right or wrong for quick decisions.
Exactly.
But how do we even get these attitudes?
Our attitudes, they form in a few ways. One way they're formed is because of the mere exposure effect. This is when we start liking things or people or products just because we see them all the time.
Essentially, brands do this by playing the same commercial over and over until you subconsciously trust the product.
Right. So during the Super Bowl, Budweiser was willing to pay like $8 million for each 30-second commercial slot because their marketing team knows a lot about the mere exposure effect.
But the Budweiser commercials are always so good.
Those Clydesdales get me every time. Did you see the one this year with the foal and the rescued bald eagle?
That one got me. The foal protected the eagle during a storm, and they grew up together and were best friends forever.
My heart literally melted.
I also know that the mere exposure effect works when I'm around certain people a lot. For example, when I became a lifeguard and met my manager, Chris, during week 1, I didn't know Chris at all. There was neutral vibes. In week 2, I would see him every day at 9 a.m. reading a book. And in week 3, my fellow new coworker asked, "What do you think of Chris?" And I'm like, "Oh, he's great." But I really had zero data on Chris because he's familiar. My brain flags him as safe.
Exactly. So being familiar with someone makes us feel favorable toward them.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
So, another way we develop our attitudes is by training our brain using classical conditioning. Do you remember Pavlov's dogs?
I do. Pavlov's dogs are famous.
Yeah, pretty much. So, classical conditioning is when you pair a neutral trigger like a bell with a stimulus like food until the trigger alone causes a reaction. For example, Pavlov's dogs eventually drooled at the sound of a bell because they learned to expect a meal was coming.
Like a saving success hack.
You have the best hacks. Tell us your idea.
So, if you want a better attitude towards saving money, pair the act of depositing money into your account with specific upbeat notification sound on your phone. Eventually, just hearing that notification sound gives you a hit of dopamine before you even see your bank balance.
Oh, I love that idea. Another way we develop our attitudes is with operant conditioning, which is when we get rewards or punishments for our behaviors. The consequences of our behavior will either encourage or discourage us to behave in the same way in the future. So you go to work because you want the paycheck, which is a reward, or because you fear getting fired.
I once tried to use operant conditioning on myself for the gym. I told myself I could only watch Love Island USA while I was on the treadmill.
Oh, yeah? How'd that go?
Well, it worked for a week, but then I just watched the show on the couch and felt the dissonance big time.
See? You were cheating the system. I've actually been using the gym trick by binge watching Seinfeld on the stair climber. I know every episode by heart, but I still use it as a reward to get through the workout. Whoever invented that step climber machine?
Those step climbers are brutal.
Seriously. And finally, we can develop our attitudes through social learning. You watch your roommate stay organized with their schoolwork or their career responsibilities, and they thrive. So you adopt or learn their habits. Or on the other hand, you watch your roommate get put on academic probation because of the habits and think, yeah, I'm definitely not doing that.
So basically, there are several ways we form our attitudes and beliefs. So let's get back to Dylan. He's got these attitudes that he brought to college from his childhood, but his college life and decisions are clashing with them. What does that feel like?
It's tension. It can show up as conflict. Since we're talking about Dylan and his college decisions, I remember the conflict that I felt every spring when I was in college because I wanted to go with my friends on a spring break trip, but I also wanted to just go home and spend time with my family.
I know that one very well.
Also, dissonance can show up as a feeling of shame.
So, like the way I felt about my recent car tire purchase?
Oh no, Ian, what happened?
I had to buy 4 new tires since one of my tires went flat and the others were in bad shape. I didn't have all the money to buy 4 tires at the same time, so my dad, thankfully, paid for all 4 tires in the end. But I felt shame for being financially dependent on him.
So, your attitude of, I should be taking care of my car maintenance myself, didn't match with your behavior of your dad paying for the tires.
Yeah, it felt awful.
I get that. Also, dissonance can show up when we work hard at rationalizing our behavior.
That sounds like when I wanted a new pair of headphones and I rationalized it by buying them and saying the purchase was for school purposes, when in reality, I only use them for gaming.
That's the perfect example of rationalization. It calms our cognitive dissonance.
You know, I was listening to Chapel Roan's Pink Pony Club earlier today, knowing that our conversation was going to be on cognitive dissonance, and that song is the ultimate dissonance anthem because she's in a small town girl who finds her true self under the neon lights of a West Hollywood drag club. The song acts as a sonic tug of war between two irreconcilable identities.
I love this song, by the way. Roan's conflict is a clash between two powerful cognitions or beliefs. The first being, I am a good Tennessee girl who should stay home and make my mother proud. The second conflicting belief is, I am a performer who feels most alive in a space my hometown might judge negatively.
It seems like in the chorus, Chapel is using self-justification by singing, I'm gonna keep on dancing. She is actively working to resolve the tension she is feeling by choosing her new reality over her old expectations.
Well, fortunately, by the end of the song, she seems to have a resolution. She resolves the dissonance through acceptance of complexity. So she acknowledges that she can't be the person her mother wants and the person she actually is at the same time. Instead of retreating home, which we would label as avoidance, or pretending she doesn't care about her mother's opinion, which we would label as denial, she accepts the bittersweet trade-offs that come with living her truth.
She doesn't want to disappoint her mom, but she knows she wants to live differently than how she was raised. Don't most of us feel that way at one time or another? I know I do.
So, this past summer, my 22-year-old son Landon and I were in the car together, and Pink Pony Club came on the radio, and I was humming along, having a great time. And then he suddenly said, "This song is about me." And I stopped humming, and my heart dropped, waiting for him to tell me that he was leaving college to become a dancer at the club.
And
When he didn't elaborate further, I chose to sit on his association with the song because something that is very special about Landon is that he's extremely insightful and has big feelings, but he doesn't always know how to verbalize his insights.
did you get it figured out?
By the next day, I think I did. In his way, Landon was telling me that he, like Chapel, was standing at a crossroad. He carries the values that he was raised with and honors the roots that made him strong. But he's realized that now the journey is his to walk. He's stepping onto a path of his own making, and he understands now that he must occasionally take turns that lead him away from the trails that I, as his mom, would have chosen for him. It isn't a rejection of his past, but actually a brave claim on his future.
When does that conflict or dissonance go away?
So I wish I had better news for you, Ian, but I still feel that conflict as a grown adult.
Are you kidding me? I thought it would just disappear.
Sorry. So I, as you know, have naturally curly hair, which, as some of you know, can be a blessing or a curse, depending on the day and the weather. So on the curse days, I make adjustments with my hair and I straighten it.
That sounds pretty reasonable and normal.
Well, you would think, but my 91-year-old mom makes it very clear to me that she prefers me to always wear my hair in its natural curly way, frizz and all.
So, do you?
No, but please don't tell on me, Ian. Seriously. On the days when I straighten my hair, even when I know I won't see her because she lives in North Carolina and I live in Ohio, I still feel the unpleasant guilt of cognitive dissonance. I feel like I'm letting my mom down.
I guess if we thought about our daily lives hard enough, we would see all of the times we have that feeling of guilt, shame, conflict, and tension.
And the more we know and understand about ourselves, the less we feel those conflicting emotions.
I know I'm still trying to get it all figured out.
It takes time. Look at me. I'm still a mess when I try to do something different with my hair. And honestly, it isn't just families that contribute to our attitudes and beliefs. Society does this too. Do you remember anything about the great egg debate?
I don't think so.
Okay, so for years, before I think the early 2000s, we were told by, I think, scientists or someone who was trying to ruin the egg industry, I don't know, but we had the message sent loud and clear that eggs were bad for us. Scientists or the egg industry ruiners said that the yolk in eggs caused people to get high cholesterol, and the suggestion was to eat no more than 2 eggs a week. Then one day, the science shifted, and then we were told by the researchers that eggs were actually superfoods. And this societal attitude shift happened overnight. People were super stressed because their eggs are bad attitude or belief was being challenged.
I never knew eggs used to have such a bad reputation.
Fortunately, you missed the eggs are bad decade because that has scarred me forever. It's hard to enjoy a nice scrambled egg in the morning without conflicted emotions.
You know, I didn't even like eggs until I was 9 and I saw one of my older cousins eating some. Wanting to be more like them, I decided to eat them.
And that's social learning.
So, when Dylan, or any of us for that matter, feels this dissonance, how do we fix it?
There are 3 ways. First, we can change the attitude. I used to think skipping one class was a sin. Now I see it as a mental health break. Or we can add qualifiers or rationalize. I haven't missed any classes this week and I did well on my biology exam, so I deserve a break. And lastly, we can change the behavior. You start to feel that conflict when the alarm goes off and you get out of bed and start your day.
It's like that famous 1959 study. Researchers paid students to lie and say a boring task was fun. The ones paid $1 actually started believing the lie because the $1 wasn't enough of a reason to lie. So they changed their attitudes to feel better. The $20 group just said, I did it for the money, and moved on.
Exactly. We hate being liars or failures, so we change our internal narrative to match our actions.
This feels especially weird with social media.
How so?
We post a perfect photo, and then we feel like we have to live up to that fake version of ourselves.
I get it. And the algorithms of social media platforms protect us from dissonance or that uncomfortable feeling by only showing us things we already agree with. It's called a filter bubble. It keeps us comfortable, but because we are only being directed to one set of attitudes, beliefs, values, interests, it makes our attitudes more extreme. It's a pull for our attitudes to polarize to one extreme or another.
Is dissonance always bad?
Oh, not at all. It's a signal. It's your brain's way of saying, hey, something isn't aligning with who you want to be. So use that bad feeling as a catalyst to grow.
You know, I finally watched the Barbie movie, and while I expected neon pink, I didn't expect a full-blown lesson in cognitive dissonance.
It's actually a perfect case study, Ian. Barbie starts the film with a very specific cognition. I have fixed everything for women in the real world.
Right? She thinks she's a hero, but when she hits Venice Beach and, well, it's not exactly a warm welcome. She gets catcalled by construction workers, and then, the big one, she meets those teenagers at the high school.
That's the first major class. She expects gratitude for being an empowering icon.
But instead, she's called a fascist who promotes unrealistic standards.
Yeah, her brain is suddenly holding 2 incompatible ideas. I am an empowering hero, and the people I meant to help think I'm a villain.
That tension is why she literally starts to cry for the first time. It's the emotional pain of her worldview cracking. And it isn't just social, right? It's physical. She gets cellulite and flat feet. She's stereotypical Barbie, but she's becoming glitchy.
Yeah, exactly. She faces the dissonance of perfection. She's supposed to be flawless, yet she's experiencing aging. To resolve that, she initially tries psychological avoidance.
Right? She just wants to go back to the pink utopia where the contradictions don't exist. But the movie really leans into that famous monologue about how it's impossible to be a woman. It sounded like it's a list of cognitive dissonances.
So true. That monologue is the heart of the science here. Society demands that women hold contradictory cognitions simultaneously. Be ambitious, but be always likable. Or always look young, perfect, and well put together, but don't wear too much makeup because then it looks like you're trying. Or don't be too emotional, but if you don't express emotions, you're considered cold. So I think living under these impossible clashing standards creates a permanent state of dissonance.
So, how does Barbie resolve it? She doesn't stay perfect at the end.
Yeah, she chooses the most healthy but difficult resolution: acceptance of complexity. Instead of trying to force reality back into a perfect plastic box, she accepts that human life includes pain, aging, flaws. She realizes that simply acknowledging the dissonance rather than ignoring it is actually what gives you the power to move forward. She stops being an idea and chooses to be a person.
The cure for the mental itch isn't always finding a way to be perfect again. Sometimes it's just admitting the world is messy.
Absolutely. Dissonance is often the doorway to growth.
Deep stuff for a movie about a doll. Thanks, Professor. I'm gonna go think about my own flat feet moments now. Well, I feel a lot better about my sunk cost headphones guilt now. I'll just rationalize it as building extreme mental endurance.
You know how I feel about sensible spending. Wait, did I just sound like my mother?
Are you gonna start talking about how I'm wearing my hair today?
Nope. I'll draw the line at your questionable purchases for today.
Well, thank you for joining us. You can listen to our podcast on YouTube and Spotify. Feel free to email us with any questions you have for us at weshouldprobablytalkpodcast@gmail.com. So, we should probably talk again in our next episode.